Hello, my name is Brynjar Amundsen and I'll be your Norwegian language teacher today. We are going to talk about verbs, the different tenses and a couple of tricks and when to use different tenses. Yes. So, we have the infinitive of the verb, right? That's your base form, like å være, å kjøre, å spise, å lese, right? Or you have the present tense, presence, right? You have that. Jeg her, jeg spiser, where you add an R to most of them, to most of the verbs. Unless it's a modal verbs, then there's no R connected to it. Jeg liker. It's good to hit the R a little bit harder there, so the person that the person you're speaking to knows what you're saying. You also, and then after this, you have the preteritum, which is past tense. This one is used when you're focusing on time, when you're focusing on when something happened. For example, jeg var der I går. The way you show that how you can know that you're focusing on time, that you're mentioning a certain time when something happened, right? Vi dro på ferie I fjor. Here, I fjor is how you know that, okay, you're focusing in on time when it was directly preteritum every single time. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to know that it is you're focusing in on the past if you're not really using any expressions of time, right? Jeg var der for en time siden, 1 hour ago. Very clear which one to use. Sometimes you have a reference, like da jeg gikk på skolen, bodde jeg I Tromsø. Right, so here you have da jeg gikk på skolen, which is kind of mentioning a certain time in the past. Then you use preteritum. That's it. That's where I want you to stop thinking about which one to use. And now the other one, the fourth, presens perfectum. When is this being used? This is when you focus on the result of action. You have two functions. One is the result of an action and the other is a continuation from the past. So you could say here you're not focusing on when something happened, just that it has happened, right? So you can get questions, har du vært I Tromsø? Yes, so jeg har vært I Tromsø, jeg har vært I London, jeg har vært I Paris, jeg har vært... So here I'm just listing the places I've been, right? Because I'm focusing on this result. Of course, I could go into detail saying when I was there by changing it into preteritum. So, for example, we could be, ja, jeg har vært I Albania. Jeg var I Albania for 1 år siden. So here I gave the result, har vært der, and then I changed it into the preteritum to tell you when that was. That's how you can go back and forth, just practicing this a little bit, being aware of this, you'll get it eventually. The other usage of the presens perfectum is when it's a continuation from the past. Started in the past and is still going on. For example, jeg har bodd I Norge I 2 år. Right? Started in the past, still going on. Very, very common. And you have, vi har kjørt bil I 3 timer. Still driving, someone's asking. Continuation. That's it. Of course, some can be a little bit unclear sometimes, then just ask questions to check. But yeah, most of the time people use it to focus in on the result usage. Now, a little bit about the pronunciation of them. For example, let's take a classic verb. You have å jobbe, to work. That goes like this. Let's do all the 4. You have å jobbe, jobber, jobbet, and har jobbet, the 4th one there. So here it's important that you'll add your T, right, for the past tenses. The R for the present tense, jobber, right? Make sure you kind of hit that a little hard. And then you have the T being added for the preteritum, jobbet. Here I hear many people messing around a little bit because they're not pronouncing the T. Very common with new students of mine that have taken other courses or learned elsewhere or just learned by their own, that they have come into a habit of not pronouncing the T at the end. For example, let's say you're saying å jobbe, right? That's just the infinitive. And the difference between the past tense, preteritum, and infinitive is just one T. So what happens if you don't pronounce the T in jobbet? Right? You lose the past tense, it goes away. And that again can cause confusion. So make sure you hit them hard, the endings of them, they're so super important. Jeg jobbet, hitting that T at the end. Very, very important. Jeg flyttet dit for et år siden. Jeg flyttet. I have to check sometimes with people I meet if they mean like, are you moving there now or did you move there? Sometimes people will be a little bit too polite to ask you to check, and then they'll just not say anything because they're not sure. So remember to be specific about that, because there's a big difference between I'm moving, jeg flytter, right? Or jeg flyttet. Sometimes people will scratch off, not pronounce the R at the end, right? So you can get a little fuzzy around the areas which tense you're using. And I do think the reason for this is because you have nouns in the definite, bestämt, specific form, like the house, huset, which is written with an ET ending because it's neutral gender. There you don't pronounce the T, so people get into this habit of never pronouncing the T at the end. Don't do that. Make sure you incorporate that in the verbs. Very, very important. Watch out for the vowel change sometimes. You have your base verb, or gjøre, gjør, gjorde, har gjort, right? So make sure there's some vowel changes there. That's very, very important. We'll talk more about the pronunciation of the irregular verbs later. But for the regular verbs like flyttet, jobbet, or jobba, both of them, make sure you pronounce the ending to make it very clear so that the person you're talking to understands you, and you kind of create that divide instead of just throwing out the verbs in there in just infinitive and nobody has any idea what you're saying, and it's like, wait, I don't know, we'll just skip it, we'll talk about something else that happens. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Bye.